just if I can just make it really simple for people, you know, y- y- we have a bad understanding of karma. We think karma is like if we steal a chocolate bar, then a brick is going to fall on our head, and it's not like that. It's just anytime you're not true to yourself, it's going to come back and haunt you.
Insight and Awareness Spiritual Explorer. Soul intuitive, emotional, and spiritual mentor and award-winning author Lorraine Nilon.
Welcome, explorers, and thank you for being part of the adventure. Today, our guest is Chris Thrall, and he's a former Royal Marine Commando and an author of a best-selling memoir, Eating Smoke, One Man's Descent into Crystal Meth Psychosis in Hong Kong Triad Heartland. Now, that's book one. Book two is 40 Nights, My Escape from Crystal Meth, Hell. So you've had a big life experience with what you've had for fodder to write about in your books.
Yes, it's been a hell of a journey, and it just gets more and more exciting, Lorraine.
Because you've got an extremely popular YouTube channel as well. So what do you do on your YouTube channel? How are you helping people? Because you do a lot of work for charity and all sorts of things. So what's motivating you now?
So my biggest motivation at the moment, I would say, is coaching people, as in what is going on in the world, why you see global events, and enabling them to, we call it walk the warrior's journey, which you might have heard referred to as the spiritual battle, enlightenment, um, the sacred secretion, the chrism, the Christ. Nothing to do with religion, for your listeners, our friends out there. All about the alchemical processes that take place in our bodies, that if we don't learn how to control them, things like serotonin, DMT, dopamine, then there's plenty of people out there that will try and control them, as we're sadly seeing in the Middle East.
Mm,
Yes,
yes.
again, everyone's falling for the big lie uh, put out by the big club: problem, reaction, solution. And what I found is, having overcome extreme trauma in my life, which started at a terribly young age, I've kind of worked it out, Lorraine. I've had a life of experimenting, really, in some very serious situations. So I was in conflict. I mean, I had a childhood that probably kids shouldn't really go through that kind of stuff. And that continued until I was homeless when I was 17 and living in my car. And my friend bet me I couldn't join the toughest infantry force on the planet, or at least the toughest basic training, which is the Royal Marines Commandos. So as an angry young man, homeless for the second time, I said, oh, yes, I can. And I went off to prove my ego, because I was very angry, and I felt a failure, and I needed to prove to everyone that I'm not a loser. And I was in conflict at 19, so I was in the Northern Ireland conflict, walking down the streets of a major British city or Irish city, depending on what your viewpoint is. Uh, with what was essentially a machine gun, fully automatic weapon. The chap behind me, just to give you one example, we lost a chap, got shot through the head in I think the second week, which really brought home another reality of life, that people die, and that I was in a pretty serious job, and I was essentially a paid killer, although it took me many years to realize that. I remember being on patrol, and the chap behind me got shot 3 times. Then the gunman turned his sights on me, and the ground was pinging up like in the cowboy films. That was quite exciting. Fortunately, Jock lived to tell the tale.
That's a good thing.
Um, and then I left to run what was a fairly successful business in Hong Kong, a marketing business. And cut a long story short, I was kind of headlined as the next millionaire of this company, and this is all materialistic, third dimensional nonsense to anyone listening. But when you're a kid and you suddenly got that dream of the Porsche 911 is coming true,
Mm,
um, and I was earning at 23, I was earning in US dollars, let's say 5,000, $7 or $8,000 a month for 1 month. It was very brief. So I
yeah.
thought, Lorraine, I thought, oh my God, yeah, I am that cliche, materialistic 90s red Porsche driver. Oh, I would have got a black one, but you know, Wall Street kind of, with the stupid haircut that they had back then and snorting all the, the lines and stuff. And I got out to Hong Kong, and within, I'd say about 7 months, I was all the business had failed. I was chronically addicted to crystal methamphetamine. I, after a series of jobs gone wrong, I ended up working for the Hong Kong Triads as a nightclub doorman. I was never a triad. I never tried to say I was a triad. I was just their white Western doorman face to kind of calm the white Western clients down when they had too many. And if that wasn't kind of serious enough, because I went from one very serious club into another one basically, and there was murder and what they call choppings, which is a revenge attack, and serious kick-ins going on all the time. Um, to give an example, my one of my friends worked at the door of another club, and a transit van pulled up one night. 12 or so triads piled out the back, all with their meat cleavers, and they just set about chopping my friend to pieces. Um, he survived, even though he had to have his thumb sewn back on. And the nutcase was back at work 3 days later. So it was kind of serious, but as if this wasn't serious enough, having one doorman, Chu Chai was he was a street fighter, a real tough nose fighter, and I saw these guys fight, and it was like they were just sociopathic. They had no feeling for anyone that made them lose face, which is a big thing in Chinese culture. The other chap, Dai Su, was he was a really tall guy, about 6'3", and he was not only a doorman, but he was an assassin. So every now and again, he'd disappear off across the border into mainland China, to do a hit on someone, and then they'd smuggle him back into the territory again. So as if it wasn't serious enough, I was phasing in and out of clinical psychosis. So I'd overdone, if we use the euphemism, burning the candle at both ends.
You did it
I
to the
burnt it
extreme.
Yeah, I burnt it at both ends, set fire to it in the middle, wrapped it up in dynamite, and chucked it into a flaming volcanic pit. It was,
So, and what do you think? You obviously have worked on yourself a lot and done a lot of the inner work. So, what do you think was taking you to that? Was the decision that you made to do at that time? I know things start steamrolling, and we kind of end up in different experiences, and it's not like we go, that is where I'm going to plan to get to. But what is it that that you're in that self-destructive
I was
mode?
self-medicating
Yeah,
for pain,
yeah.
but pain that I didn't know I had, because I thought I'm normal. Okay, it's not normal being homeless in your school uniform, but I was such a self-contained unit, Lorraine, that I used to love standing on a street corner, homeless, smoking a cigarette at 15 years old, saying, F the world, this is my life, and I'm going to, if this is what it is, this is what it is. And
Yeah, right.
there was something bizarrely perverse about I didn't want an easy life. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I wanted the abuse that I went through as a little tacker.
No.
That, but what I'm saying is I didn't want an easy life. I wanted it hard. I wanted to, you know, just see the hard side of life because if you didn't, how could you like be a man? I know this is sounds a bit crazy, and just to
But
get
that's
back,
the reality. If you've got child, I wrote a book on child abuse. So, and the majority of my clients when I first started working with people were childhood sexual abuse victims. So, what people don't realize is where that actually takes people, and it can take them to many different ways and very many different ways of self destruction, self loathing, and self opposing. So, and sometimes you lock into a belief system, being the toughest man in the world, handling it, all the rest of it. That's going to feed that hole in you, or it's going to at least keep it suppressed. So, and that's why a lot of addicts, that they do go to any form of drug or any form of gambling, etc. They're looking to numb out what they're trying to keep suppressed. They're trying to escape their inner chaos, basically.
yes, like I say, it's subliminal though. If you'd asked me, are you a self-medicate, I wouldn't have known what you were talking about. I'd have
No.
said no. I just like getting off my head.
Yeah. Yeah, this
Um,
is fun. Leave me alone.
yeah, this is this is my, and that was my biggest problem. Lorraine, was like my biggest problem was society. And okay, looking back, it's possibly difficult to just accept people that are in self-destruct mode. I didn't think I was in self-destruct, but I did destruct everything around me. My house, my physical health, my mental health. Obviously, I was in clinical psychosis, um, but I found it really hard. I came back to the UK with the idea that I'm going to get my life back together and get back out to Hong Kong because I really loved. I loved Hong Kong. I loved working in the nightclub area, and that was almost like where my problems, my 3D, my materialistic problems started because I sunk into the biggest depression that I could only kind of kick myself out of with substance use. And because I didn't have any money, I was unemployed. I could only afford to sort of get high for 3 or 4 days, and then I'd have 10 more days until I got my sickness benefit through. And that 10 days, I crashed on a sofa bed. Just I couldn't get off it. I didn't want to get off it. I just watched daytime TV, which is just like abhorrent to me now. But I'd I'd get I'd get a sense like my drug became like Columbo when a
Yeah,
detective series I'm like I could because I could get lost. I could,
yeah,
you know, it would hypnotize me away from feeling how I was feeling. If I had a packet of tobacco, it was just like, oh yes, yes, I've got something. I can just change my mind, and I would my shopping become like £1.67 a week, which I don't know. I think that's like £3 Australian or something. Sorry, a fortnight rather. And I would buy all the supermarket cheap brand stuff, and I make well. I mean, you can't buy a lot for £1.67. You can buy like a packet of porridge, a big cheap packet of pasta, and a bag of sugar and some milk, and I would mix those four together, and I lived on that and cheap white sliced bread that cost like 12 pence a loaf back then. Um, and the tub, like the big tub of margarine supermarket spread that again cost about 17p. The Bovril, that's like Vegemite, right? I'd have to shoplift that because that was too expensive. And then I got caught shoplifting one time, and it was I nearly got caught, I should say, and it was humiliating. And sort of to cut a long story short, I saw the light one day. I got into such a dark place. The psychosis was gone, so I was no longer sort of plagued by these demons. But yeah, I was low, as low as you can get, and I couldn't stop self-sabotaging. And I didn't, and it got to the point where one day I was too ashamed to go out of my house. I've never had like self-loathing or anything like that. I know that's a big issue for people that have been
Many.
damaged.
Yeah.
I never, you know, I probably lacked a bit of self-belief because, when you get knocked from pillar to post, I think that's normal, but I always like loved myself, but I wasn't doing it in practice. And this one time I woke up cold, shivering on the floor from where I just crashed unconscious after probably a 5-day binge. I'd had 5 days, I'd hardly drink anything, I wouldn't eat anything, and I'd be manic. So it'd be like the equivalent of running a marathon every day for 5 days. And I did that for nine days once. And then I would crash. And this particular time I woke up shivering, freezing, and starving hungry. The raveniness I used to feel was it was animalistic. It was like being a, a starving wolf. When I got that pasta and porridge, I couldn't eat it fast enough. You know, in Hong Kong, I'd eat raisin bread and condensed milk. That I crave calories so much. When you haven't eaten for 9 days and you've
Mhm.
danced all night with the Filipino home workers, there's a lot of Filipino maids in Hong Kong. You've been up dancing all night, and then you work on the nightclub door the rest of the night, and then the daytime you go to some party somewhere, and I'd do that for 9 days. And anyway, the ravenousness I was feeling this particular morning back home in the UK, I was too ashamed to go out of the front door, Lorraine. I could hear the kids playing in the street outside. I knew if I went out, they'd be like, Chris, come and play football with us, because they all love the kids in my street. Love me. I was the only adult that gave them any time.
Mhm.
They come around. Chris, can you fix my bike? Chris, I got a stepdad, and you know, I'm not supposed
Mm.
to tell anyone this, but he's been horrible to my mum and all. And it was, I always wanted to be that adult that wasn't a dickhead around kids like everyone was when I only met one adult in my whole childhood. And talking till I was like 16, 15, that I wasn't scared of. And that was
Wow.
my cousin Brian, because he was such a cool dude. He worked on, he was the chief purser, the chief, like, steward on the Queen Elizabeth,
Yep.
the big yacht, the royal yacht,
Yep.
I'm guessing. Not the royal yacht, but the royally named yacht. Anyway, he was such a cool dude. He'd come home on leave, and he lived up in, near London, but he'd come down to the southwest to see us. And just remember, the kids just loved this guy, and they'd reach in his pocket and they'd pull out all these £50 notes, which was unheard of back then. I mean, we lived on nothing. We were always were poor, and they'd pull out this money, and he wouldn't even say anything. He just let them, and the parents would have to go, "No, give that back to Brian, give it back." And he was just so cool. He used to take me to the pub like when I was 14 or something, and treat me like a man, and anyway, he was like the only person that ever was just a cool dude around kids. All the rest of my childhood were just I call them abusers.
Yeah.
They, strangers in the street could come up and hit you. You know,
Right.
teachers would you know, one teacher stripped me off in front of the class and spanked me, and I reckon that's probably one of the most traumatic things I've I've ever, you know, my um, experience was I just hid under a table. Um, we're supposed to be cleaning up the floor at the end of the day, and I hid under this table, and I was just in shock, Lorraine. I was like, just I wanted this kid to talk to me, so I didn't feel so like alone and embarrassed and shamed. And could you imagine if a teacher now pulled someone's trousers and underwear down, hoik them up onto their desk in front of a class, and physically abuse them?
No.
They'd get, like, 8 years in prison or something.
Yeah.
Back then, that was normal. Anyone could do it. Anybody could do that to you, and you didn't tell your parents because you you just thought, "Oh, I'm the problem." So I'm getting a bit long-winded here. So I always wanted to be that adult that just, you know,
You
just
can see why through all your experiences, you can see why you were that angry young man. Like, look what your experience of the world was. It was like you're in battle before you joined the army, before you became a Marine. You were already in battle. So
Yeah.
so what was the catalyst for you to go, "Hang on, I gotta get off this meth. I've gotta, something's gotta give." What was it that got you moving in that direction?
Right. So, sorry, I get a bit long-winded with my stories. It's just,
It's a big story, though. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
it
it's a
is.
big story.
So I heard the kids outside, and I wanted to go out. We have something here, you've probably heard of it, called a pasty. It's the old coal mining snack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to make it half apple and half meat back in the day, but where I live, it's famous. My friend actually took them down under and started a Cornish pasty company in Australia. Um, but anyway, I had this particular time when I woke up, I had a little bit of money and I could afford this pasty, and there was a corner shop about a quarter of a mile away, and I couldn't go out the door. I I was cold, shivering in my boxer shorts on the floor, starving hungry, but I couldn't go out the door because I was just so sketchy. I was, when I was in the Marines, I was 13 and a half stone at one point, and now I'm like 9 stone. I've lost 4.5 stone. Um, or
So,
not
did you
quite.
when you seen yourself in the mirror, did you recognize yourself, or did it feel like somebody different was in the
Yeah,
mirror?
it's also gradual. You don't
Yeah,
just decide one day to almost lose everything and nearly be dead. It's
yeah.
so incremental. And so, cut a long story short, I had nervous breakdown probably about number 3. I I sat there, I heard these kids, I started thinking of me as a kid. I started thinking of this little kid that didn't deserve what he went through. And then I burst into tears like, "Chris, what are you doing? What are you doing?" This whole substance thing, it was great in the beginning. Like, I learned so much about myself. We had the dance era over here, the rave scene. It was just a phenomenal experience of learning and socializing and dancing and incredible music. Then I learned that I could write, that I could paint, that I had a really good like sense of balance, that I had a unique way with people that they would respond to really well, and it was good. But what was it doing now? That like the gravy train, it departed. Like the honeymoon period was over. What was I still doing? Because it didn't work.
Mm.
It wasn't working anymore, and it hadn't worked for a long time, and everything was chaos around me. My house was smashed up. The clothes I wore, like I'd stolen them off a heroin dealer, a year. They didn't even fit me. And then I thought, Chris used to be a handsome young Marine. I used to wake up after a night downtown of all these phone numbers in my pocket, and I'd be right, which of these girls am I going to call? Oh, I think that I think that was the prettiest one. She was nice. It was just insane. I drove almost a brand new BMW. I had a mobile phone when people would be like, "What's that?" Oh, it's a phone. What? Yeah, it's a phone. We use them in business. It's all stupid materialistic stuff. But I was young. I mean, I'm still 27 then.
You're
Maybe I
right.
was 20. Maybe I was 28 by this time. And with that, I just crying my eyes out. What have you done? What have you done? And in that moment, I thought, right, you got to start looking after that little boy. Adults might have been wrong to him when he was a kid, but you're doing it to him now. You got no excuse. You're doing it to him. So how about you stop blaming people and playing a victim, and you take action? And I thought, right, I'm never going to be an angel. Don't want to be an angel. And I certainly don't want to give up the quote unquote party lifestyle, although that is a euphemism for taking drugs on my own. But I can cut down. And as I'm thinking this, the light shone through the window, almost like that epiphany moment. It was the sun was out there, and I could feel the light outside. And I thought, right, I'm going to wake up every morning from now on. I'm going to throw open them curtains, even if I'm absolutely hanging out with a come down, and I'm going to say, "Morning, sun. Thank you so much for this life, because a lot of my mates are dead now and they ain't here to enjoy it, but I am, and I ain't going nowhere." And that's what I did, Lorraine. Instead of spending all my money on a gear, I spend 10 quid a fortnight. So, $20. That was it. And when it was gone, it was gone. So I'd have me manic period, crash, like maybe 1, 2 days, and that was it. And I stuck to it.
That
And
takes a lot of determination to do that. That's someone that has this inner strength of being able to make a decision and hold to that intention.
I think it was more, my life couldn't get any more painful.
Yeah,
It
right.
was, it was an easier option, Lorraine, to be honest. It was just the easier. And when I woke up in that morning, unbeknown to me, I'm now on the path to enlightenment. I mean, I physically, the build up's been there, but now I've stepped foot, because I woke up, I threw open them curtains, I said, "Morning, sun," even though I really just wanted to sleep on that crappy little sofa bed and just hide from the world because I was exhausted and shattered. I'm like, nah, you made a promise yourself, get up. And when I did that, and I went and made a cup of tea, not class A's, a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you know what? I paid for this. I'm going to enjoy it." That's all. And I got enshrouded in this energy, like we call it the ready break glow. After that breakfast cereal advert. And like, I knew something had changed, and I knew there was more to this life than just the little three-dimensional unit called Chris Thrall.
So did you
Uh,
feel the support from whatever you want to call it, divinity, or from, where we come from?
Divinity. Let's stick with divinity.
Divinity?
I had connected with the eternal energy in the universe, what some people will call God, but I don't believe in like dogma. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, this was the first step on my journey. And through a commitment to lifelong learning, because, you know, I still have my rough patches over the years. I've never been to you know, a self-help group. I've never been to the doctors. I've never had any support. Everything I've done is myself. I've never really stopped. Can we say, we call it dabbling with
Yeah.
certain things, and alcohol become a massive, I don't want to say a crutch, because it's not a crutch, it's just a poison. But poisoning myself every night, probably for 30 years, I did, if because I was drinking before I took substances. I was drinking like 9% homebrew when I'm 13, 14 years old. And when I look back, I'm like, bloody hell, 30 years have gone, Chris, and you've been loaded like every day. But that didn't mean, you know, I've lived, worked, and traveled now in 85 countries across all 7 continents. I'm a qualified pilot, qualified skydiver. I'm an Antarctic polar circle scuba diver, driven journalists to India and back to write articles about people living in poverty. I was awarded the second level commendation of the Finnish nation on the grounds of human generosity. Last year, I was awarded English Veteran of the Year for
Lovely.
inspiration. Um, I've completed, or I've ran the length of the United Kingdom ultra marathon every day for 36 days, carrying all my camping equipment. Completed a quadruple Ironman. This year, I ran the Marathon des Sables race across the Sahara in the second toughest year on record, and so on and so forth. And a lot of this history, I've I've uh, been addicted to well, for the most part, weed and alcohol. But in recent years, I became a father, and through this constant lifelong process of learning, I got to a point where I realized it had to stop, and that it's fine sabotaging my own life because I was a hedonist, and an angry, not angry, but I'm like, nobody tells me what to do. But when you get a kid, they have every right to tell you, what to
Th
do.
and there's the influence of your cousin showing you just what that level of kindness and what you wanted to feel, you wanted to be.
Yes. And so I embarked then, my spiritual journey took me to a place where I, yeah, it just become really good, probably out of survival. I started to listen to a chap called John St. Julian on YouTube, who's got an incredible grasp of the esoteric nature of the scripture. So, like when I was a kid, I'd go to church and just hear this utter nonsense that didn't make any sense, and be like, "Why do people sit here listening to this?" John, through using dictionaries like this, explain the incredibly powerful esoteric alchemical message that this is a guidebook for understanding yourself, not and what it's done, Lorraine, is it's I'm completely set free now. I don't have any bitterness, any hate. I do my best not to judge. um I don't buy into any of this nonsense that you see on the news because I don't watch the news. I don't support the mass recurring of anybody. Um, I've I've got a good grasp of history now, and I look back at the sort of European banking cartels that popped up in around about the 1600s, and how they merged with esoteric societies. So underground fraternities and also Middle Eastern influences, you could say, such as Babylonian money magic, um, Babylonian mystery school. And I explain to people how these groups are now playing everybody off against each other by keeping people in their ego, keeping people in their lower animal desires, as opposed to reaching upper self, where you shake off this 3D delusional body and realize that we're actually all part of the quantum energy field. So you
Yeah,
are me and I am you, and that is what we primarily are. And if we buy into the division of just being human beings, that we're independent, this utter nonsense. I call them the big club. That's what they want. They want you to believe that, and they've done this for thousands of years, from when they took control of the money supply in ancient Babylon and turned it into a system of money lending and fractional reserve banking and interest rates and mortgages just to enslave people
Yeah.
with money that doesn't even exist in the first place. Um, this is what I kind of help people to do, Lorraine, and
Because I think too, like spirituality doesn't matter what your version is or how you what your path is, but it's all about understanding yourself and then and really operating from what resonates with you. And a lot of
yeah,
religions and different belief systems are not going to they're not going to resonate with you because it's all about controlling you. And your spiritual path is about having your freedom of will, your free choice to actually come and explore who you are and how you want to be in this world. But we're in a world that is set to oppress people's freedoms and to
yes.
have us all like cattle running the same line. So what do you think humanity, our big question on the podcast is, what does humanity need to acknowledge and understand for us to evolve? So what's your answer to that?
Well, my answer would be is humanity doesn't have to do everything because the spiritual battle's within. And I only, you know, I lift the weight. This is a beautiful Australian expression, or I heard an Australian woman say it. She said, lift the weights in your own gym.
Right.
And it's so true. You don't go to the gym and look out the window at the gym across the road and go, "Oh, I wish I was lifting those." You lift your own weights, and it's the same. All the answers are inside. I live my life. I don't judge other people living theirs because anything they've done, I've probably done it myself or something even more stupid. And that's what humanity needs to do is we need to go within because we live in paradise on earth, but you only find it inside you. However, we do also live in this meat suit in the third dimensional realm, and we need to be aware that there are wannabe controllers out there, and we make the assumption because we're loving human beings that everybody's like that.
Yeah.
We are yet to grasp that some people are born psychopathic and sociopathic. They don't have the gene with which to experience empathy, kindness, and love. So it's no good them trying to become enlightened like your goal and my goal would be is to live the most love. Once you realize, I know you know this, Lorraine, and I'm preaching to the choir, but once people realize you are me and I am you, that is why love is the highest form of frequency that the human being can experience. Because once you realize we are all one, then unless you're a sociopath, you realize that you love everything because it's all you. Of course you would. You know, you're never going to like drop bombs on someone else's country. That is just mental. They're me. They're the universe experiencing itself subjectively in their country. They are you, and right
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
now, unfortunately, and you know, some people don't have this genetic makeup that we do. It's said to have been damaged through years of, you know, I call it keep it in the family. It's when you try and keep your wealth in your family, so you marry your family, and it's said to do a lot of damage to sort of like your human DNA structure. And there are people out there that can't
Well,
experience empathy. So this journey that we're on, they ain't on it, Rain. They're on all they can do is
yeah.
control for their new world order. And if people have any doubt as to the evilness of the cold blooded reptilian nature of certain, of the, I call them the big club,
Mhm.
just look at the atrocities that they bring about. Look
Yeah,
at what
yeah.
happened in New York 20 years ago. Look at, what they're now, those poor people in the Middle East, all of them, Israel and Palestine, they're all being played. They've all been
Yeah.
sold a narrative that you're a victim and you're a victim, and they're fighting each other, not realize the the controllers are sat back, sat behind, just literally laughing at everybody, and they don't ever want us to have the conversation like we've had. So that's it. First off, you go inside to find your paradise. Secondly, I think we just need to be aware that there's people out there that don't have our best interests at heart because they can't experience the love that we've all built towards.
Yeah, I've wrote a lot about indifference. Like the scale to which you can go indifferent will show the amount of damage and destructive, toxic behavior that you're prepared to do. Because, like what you just said, if you care about something, you don't want to destroy it. So when we go indifferent to ourselves or we go indifferent to other people, then we're in that catalyst to be part of the toxic nature that we're seeing affecting the world. When we
Yeah.
pull ourselves out and start actually looking at self-care, and I don't just mean your body, I mean it's like really understanding that you are of value. There's an equality with all our souls, all the different skin colors we've got, religions and all that. That's just the experience we're born into. But if you strip all that away, we're all one, if you'd like to say it that way. But there's an equality within all our souls. And if we recognize, for me, if we just recognize that one fact, that every soul on this planet has the same equal value and significance, then all of a sudden blowing someone up because you want a bit of land becomes not an option. But, we're slow learners, us humans. We're very slow learners. So,
Yes.
yeah. So if someone is struggling, I know we're running out of time, but if someone is struggling with a drug addiction, what's what's the first thing they can do that can help them get to a point of like there is another way?
Um, well, first of again, it all comes from within, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've been sold this notion from American movies that you just chuck someone in rehab and it fixes them, and sadly, that's the kind of societal, generalization. It comes from within. I would say to anyone listening now, if this is you, whether it's a glass of wine every night, but you can't stop having that. Be realistic. Where is this heading? Is it going to kill you early? If the answer is yes, or is it going to make you unhappy? So alcohol, or they're all a depressant. Even the stimulants only last a day, and then you're massively depressed. So you got to take action. Action creates action, and whenever you take action, your problems just become so much easier, and the universe starts to give to you because the universe wants you to live in your higher self. I would say, if you're struggling, remember you are massively loved, more than you ever can understand. I love you unconditionally. My crew would love you. We'd welcome you into our circle. We meet every month. Me and my paid supporters. They only pay £1.99 a month. That's like $4 or something. We have a lovely chat. We just meet beautiful, and we've all struggled. All of us struggle, and struggling is good because there's no such thing as bad experience. You'll notice I've never said I wish my life wasn't the way. Absolutely not. I live in paradise, so my life's been perfect, isn't it? It's been perfect for
Where you
me.
needed to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was some tough times, but hey, not I ain't gonna complain. I'm now in a beautiful position. I don't have to put that on to my children because I get it all now. And so reach out if you want to reach out to me. I'm incredibly inexpensive simply because people are so lackadaisical and skinflints about like investing in themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm putting it out there. If you want to take action, like get hold of Lorraine, or you're welcome to go on my website, book a chat with me. And if I don't make your life better, I give you all your money back. I'm not here to steal off people. Do you know what I mean? It's there's a simple system to making your way into paradise, but you've got to want it, and you've got to want it.
And don't let the shame hold you in a place.
There isn't any
Shame's
shame.
just an
Yeah.
unresolved emotion that you haven't dealt with yet. It's not an identity. It's not who you are. It's not feeding who
No,
you
it's you be proud.
are.
Be proud of your experiences. You know, I'm incredibly, when I see people that judge, they live such timid, scared, parochial, like blinkered lives. And here I am, I'm just completely free. And I'm the only person I know that genuinely lives in paradise every single day. I know a lot of people working in, but I don't actually know everyone that knows the secrets. So like like I say, I must have done everything right. So
Yeah. So now it's time to do flip the book. Would you
yep,
like? Actually, I'm going to pick the book for you.
yep.
So to save time, so could you give me a number between 189 and 215?
Okay, 211.
211. Right. So this is part of the core of your soul, part of the essence of yourself. It'll be something that's important to you. So you've got 5 paragraphs to pick from. What would you like?
Uh could you pick one for me?
Yeah, I'll
Is
go
it
5. That's just where my eye went.
Yep.
Trust. So, trust is confidence in your own and another's integrity. It is also the confidence that truth is significant. Trust is your resonance with truth in action. So, when you trust, it's your resonance with truth in action. When you accept the truth of all energy and do not discount your own awareness, your trust in yourself expands. It is important to trust yourself to be truthful, because if you protect the lies you tell yourself, you become your own oppressor. Trust is to grace yourself with acceptance and to be honest without fear. Trust is taking responsibility for yourself within your reality and to engage with truth. That sort of sums up how you stepstoned yourself out of where you were. You started to
Yes.
trust.
Very profound. Yes.
Very
It's really
profound.
it's really simple, Lorraine. Perhaps if I've got to go because I've got someone
Yeah,
waiting for me.
sorry.
But anytime you lie, it just it's your it. I think it's to do. I think they call it the karmic record. But
Yeah,
like
well, it's an action, and that you're storing that energy within yourself, and somewhere along the line, it's got to be dealt with, or it's going to be relived again. Sometimes it's got to be relived so you can deal with it. So,
Mm,
but I know you got to go, and I thank you, Chris. I appreciate the conversation, and thanks for your time.
absolutely, Lorraine. Much love to you and to all of your wonderful friends out there. Look forward to chatting the next time.